today. Now we know that today is a public holiday, but of course today is also that day called Easter Monday. Children are in holidays, and of course the parents and the rest of the workers are also at home today to celebrate this day, and of course to also go through what is here today. My name is Jagenda Semakola Ziksok, and welcome to UBC TV. It is Good Morning Uganda Extra today, and of course thanking you very much for having chosen to be with us yet today. Congratulations to all of you who are doing things that are progressive. We want to thank God for you, and of course we pray with those who are not doing well in several ways. People have lost their relatives, they've lost their beloved ones, they have lost businesses, or things that are actually not going on very well. We commit you into the hands of our Lord God, that He shall help and be with you through this trying period, a trying moment. And for all of you who are doing things that are progressive and you're thanking God, then it is prudent that we enjoy and appreciate God responsibly, being mindful also that as you have a lot to eat, there could be somebody who is not out, or who is out there and did not have anything to feed on, to live on, or to even eat. So we need to think about one another as we thank the Lord God for. Now today, this morning, I will be joined by a Ugandan lawyer who lives in the United Kingdom, and he is an expert at mediation and arbitration, lawyer Mpanga Kato, who should be joining us today, this morning on a Good Morning Uganda Extra, to talk about mediation and arbitration as one of the ways that we should embrace in as far as managing dispute resolutions is concerned. I hope to have Counsel Kato right now, and he's just right there with me. Good morning, Counsel Kato. Speak back to me. I know that you can hear me and you can talk back to me. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Jagenda, and good morning, viewers. Firstly, I must commend you, Mr. Jagenda, for the very good African wear, Pan-African wear. So, and it's very good, very impressive. But also, just a little correction is that I'm an academic, I'm a UK academic lawyer, meaning that I am on my way to getting fully qualified to become a fully qualified solicitor. So that is my...
Are you an academic lawyer? Well, that's indeed very, very important. And thank you so much for joining us here at UBC TV this morning on Good Morning Uganda. And of course, I know that you are a member of the arbitration, I think it's Mediation and Arbitration Society of Uganda. Is that right? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And I also just want to tap into your wealth of knowledge in as far as mediation and arbitration is concerned. Let's start from that particular note. Welcome.
Right. Thank you very much for that very good question, Mr. Jagenda. So our focus on this particular program will largely be on mediation, whereas we shall, address a couple of aspects on arbitration as well. But going to mediation, what is mediation like? So mediation is a process whereby one would get a neutral third party to help two disputing parties to resolve a particular dispute. So that's the basic understanding of mediation. Two parties who are conflicting, and we've got a neutral third party who's going to help to resolve, push these people to resolve a dispute, as opposed to going to court through litigation and so on. So whereas arbitration, on the other hand, is having an arbitrator who is who's going to sort of be a judge between two conflicting parties, but they make a decision which is binding, on the parties at the end. So the decision is legally binding. That's the key difference between arbitration and mediation. Both of the two are certainly alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, meaning that you don't go to court for them, you don't go to litigation for them. Yeah, thank you very much.
Why you're so much interested in mediation and possibly arbitration. Why? Because, you know, when you talk about the law, many young Africans, young Ugandans elsewhere who are getting into the law profession are basically looking at maybe getting into political positions. They look at it as a stepping stone to political positions. Many look at the other traits like land, you know, estates and intellectual property possibly, and quite a number of things why they think it's lucrative. Why of all things did you want to delve so much into mediation and then maybe arbitration? What did you see that needs to be answered or needs to be tackled in this field?
Yeah. Thanks again for that very good question, Mr. Jagenda. Now, firstly, I'll start from a personal perspective, then I'll go into the statistics and the reasons why we ought to choose on mediation as a way of resolving disputes. So firstly, at a personal level, I'm very, very passionate about human rights myself, meaning that my heart found it quite palatable to find ways people can amicably, you know, resolve their disputes with, you know, without necessarily having a conflicting aspect of it because of my passion for human rights. But then coming to the other side in terms of being lucrative, if you look at arbitration, for example, if a person is fully trained as an arbitration practitioner, or if they become an arbitrator, a judge, you know, you might be told that an arbitrator can earn $300 per hour if they are fully qualified. So it can be lucrative from that particular point of view. But going to the statistics and the actual passion of why, you know, we need to see mediation carried out as a particular method of dispute resolution. If you look at the statistics, Uganda in the 2021 judicial financial year, over 150,000 cases were resolved through alternative dispute resolution, and this was out of the total of 300,000 cases. So meaning that alternative dispute resolution in the financial year of 2020 to 2021 helped to cut down more than half of the case backlog that was in the courts in Uganda in that particular financial year. And also, if you look at the effects of COVID-19, having brought about a backlog and people are waiting to seek justice and so on, so that is quite challenging. And if you look at the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goal 16, which is really advocating for peace, justice, strong institutions by 2030, that UN agenda for sustainable development. So these are the issues we need to address to see that people in Uganda and elsewhere, really get that justice and get that justice quickly, and amicably, if possible. Yeah, maybe you could comment on that, then I could probably go ahead with the reasons why, we actually need to take on mediation, except those few highlights.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Ndugu Mpanga, and I think you've done very good. You've given the statistics, and I wanted to know the situation or status of mediation in Uganda, and of course, what you just revealed to me here is, I think, commendable, yes. But now let's get to the issues why we think this should be it, because we have lots of interventions in this country. For example, I don't think it's just in this country, but I think globally, we have what they call the plea bargain. We just saw that happening, and then coming to us to see how to actually manage the case backlogs that we have in this country. The plea bargain, we have quite a number of those, but alternative dispute resolutions. But now, why? You just asked me before you get to the why. Let's get to the why now.
We'll get to the why. So I'm going to give 4 main reasons why Ugandans, my fellow Ugandans, should consider mediation as a way of resolving their disputes. 1, mediation is cheaper than litigation, and it is, quicker and easier to prepare. So, for example, if you look at first of all, mediation in Uganda is also governed by the, judicature mediation, the judicature
Mediation rules, I think of
2013.
2013.
So if you look at Rule 18, Rule 8 of those rules, it prescribes a mediation session to be conducted in 60 days. So meaning that, unless parties require an extension of less than 10 days, mediation needs to be conducted, in 60 days, according to that particular rule of that act. So, first reason, it is cheaper, than litigation, according to Uganda's Judicature Mediation Rules 2013. Now, secondly, it is confidential. If you look at Rule 18.1 of that, particular act,
the Judicature Mediation Rules
disclosure
2013.
can only be made by. Sorry, come again?
You talk about the Judicature Mediation Rules of 2013.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm saying that mediation is confidential. So according to Rule 18.1, so disclosure can only be done if parties have permitted for it to be done, or if that disclosure is required by law. So, for example, in litigation, going to court, that is, the case is public, and in this era of social media, whereby, I won't mention particular cases, but in this era of social media, whereby one's name can easily get tarnished. So if one opts for mediation as a way of resolving that dispute can be resolved amicably without necessarily, being exposed to the rest of the world in terms of, what ruling or judgment the judge has made and so on. Now, moving on to the third reason, parties, control their, mediation process. If you look at Rule 16.1 of that very act, so the parties can decide, for example, we can mediate on Zoom, if I'm very far away, we can agree on a particular place where to mediate. We can agree on the time. So the parties are part of this particular, mediation process, as opposed to litigation, whereby you're guided by civil procedure rules. The judge makes a particular probably order or something like that, and you've got to follow that. Certainly there is a mediator in mediation, but the parties own the process of resolving their disputes during mediation. So I think that's very important. And lastly, my fourth reason of why Ugandans ought to consider mediation as a way of resolving disputes is that it can be conducted online. For example, if someone was having a land dispute in Uganda and they're living in the diaspora and they want to resolve it with the natives at home, because mediation requires that, there has got to be a balance of power. If you look at Schedule 233 of the same judicature, mediation rules, it requires that there is a balance of power. So you could argue that, the person in the village might not have enough internet, they might not have enough data to facilitate this particular, mediation process. But because there is a requirement for a balance of power, there will be need to see that this particular person, native, probably my Jaja or Senga, who is a squatter on a particular land, has got that sort of same platform of which they can agree with maybe, someone in the diaspora or, who's trying to access a particular land to settle that, particular dispute amicably. So those are the four reasons. It is cheaper than litigation. It is, it is confidential. The parties have, control over the process, and it can be conducted online. But also to disclaim is that, mediation, we're not intending to, delegate or make, litigation useless. No, we're saying that, like I mentioned in the SDG 16, it's about accessing justice and accessing justice quickly, and people feel that they're accountable to get justice. So those are the four particular reasons why we really should consider mediation as a way of resolving disputes. So of course, later on we shall talk about the UN Mediation Convention and highlight of arbitration and so on. So thank you very much. Very
Okay,
good question.
to just benefit our listener this morning, let's get back to the beginnings, or to what we should have said a little faster. We talk about the Arbitration and Mediation Society of Uganda, a society to which you are a member. What do they do? To the benefit of our listener this morning, or viewer this morning, to first of all know, they've picked possibly the four reasons. It's cheaper, it's confidential, you control the process, and it can be conducted between Jagenda here in Kampala and Mpanga Kato in London, because it can be conducted online, as you've outlined the four reasons why we think we should go that way. But the society itself, what does it do, and how can somebody tap into it to benefit them, for those who are watching and listening this morning?
Thank you very much, Mr. Jagena, for a very good question. I'm really enjoying your question. Thank you very much. So firstly, by the way, like you had said, I forgot to apologize. I had to be on this program with our CEO, Council Frances Dungu Smith, but she's not been able to make it. But in a future program, she suddenly promised that she will be with us, because she's a highly qualified, highly experienced dual practitioner in the UK and here in Uganda, and she's doing a lot of work in training up young arbitrators, uprising arbitrators and mediation practitioners like me. But going to the Arbitration and Mediation Society of Uganda. So the mission of the Arbitration and Mediation Society of Uganda is to raise the standard of arbitration and mediation in Uganda through modern training and providing support services to members and stakeholders in resolving commercial disputes affecting the economy. And the question you asked, I'm going to give 4 key reasons why one needs to become a member of the Arbitration and Mediation Society of Uganda. So firstly, when you join, you'll have access to national and international arbitration and mediation networking opportunities, and you'll also, will have a possibility of getting reduced training and, conference fees on that. So that's the first reason. Secondly, you would obtain referrals from Uganda and international clients in terms of if you want to carry out mediation or arbitration, and the organization has got clients, internationally or nationally. And thirdly, mentoring opportunities for upcoming arbitrators and mediation practitioners like me, for example. I've been mentored very well by Council Frances Dungu, and you can see that I'm confident enough to talk about arbitration, talk about mediation on, on national television, but that doesn't come out of air. It comes out of mentorship, it comes out of training, and so on. So that's the third reason. Then the fourth reason is that you'll be listed among AMSU's members, arbitration and mediation practitioners, because when you're trained by the organization, we have got that confidence, we've got that endorsement that you can represent us, because you've been trained by us, you've gone through our hands. So you'll be listed, on among our arbitration practitioners. So those are the 4 key reasons. However, lately, the key focus of the organization is the focusing on, arbitration and mediation trainings. For example, there is a course that I was doing myself for arbitration. I just finished it a week ago. And prior to that, about, I think, late last year, I did a course on arbitration. So that's the main focus of of course on mediation rather. So that's the main focus of the organization, and now the trainings are online, but really quality training. We've got trainers from New York, we've got trainers from here in London, And the students are really intelligent. The standards are really high. So regarding the website is www.arbmedsociety.org. So, but you can also always email our key contact, who is the CEO, Francis, capital FRANCES at arbmedsociety.org. So our offices are in Nalia, just close to Quality Supermarket. I think that's a quick overview of the Arbitration and Mediation Society in Uganda, and I hope that really helps. The key goal is to train mediators, arbitration practitioners. Just to add a little bit is that if you look at the global practice of arbitrators, most of these are not Africans, yet the agreements that are being made in oil and gas, there are agreements that are being made in trade of cobalt, and these agreements are resolved at times through arbitration. But we do not have as many arbitration practitioners, Africans, dealing with African issues. We could have international people from elsewhere. So we need to have more mediators and more arbitrators in Africa, so that they can take stake in making decisions for Africans, making decisions for us. But certainly we'll get to talk about arbitration a little more later on. But that's a quick overview of the Arbitration and Mediation Society.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Now, what cases require mediation and arbitration? Because I am thinking like Ugandan, and I'm very mindful of what is happening in Uganda. When you look at, you just give us the details here for the case backlogs, and today, if you had an opportunity to visit the prisons facilities that we have in this country, you'll notice that majority of the inmates there have cases that are homicide-based cases. There are more of homicide cases, and these are what we have predominantly. So when you talk about mediation and arbitration, and you clearly stated that it of course does not substitute litigation, what are these cases that we look to or look for when we get into mediation and arbitration, because we're not intending to make obsolete litigation?
Yeah, so again, thank you very much for that question, Mr. Diagende. So in terms of cases, for example, we're really looking at civil matters. You're looking at land, you're looking at commercial disputes. What you're not really looking at is criminal cases, because the states is in charge of, prosecuting criminal cases. So mediation, arbitration does not really engage in criminal issues, because you really cannot mediate when someone has been raped, when someone has been killed. Well, the African traditional systems, for example, a couple of one prominent case in Uganda where they tried to sort of do something like that of an alternative dispute resolution, but suddenly the state still imposed their own, dispute resolution their own criminal investigation and prosecution. So precisely what I can say is that, civil matters, family disputes, land disputes, commercial disputes, and not necessarily criminal matters. That's the precise answer to that.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Let's talk about the other alternatives now to what we talk about here. Or before we even get to the alternatives, the ratification, because Uganda has gotten into so many international conventions, treaties, declarations, etc., etc. And of course, like I talked about, we call it the plea bargain. I talk about the plea bargain, which I think is also another very good thing for Uganda to help us manage the case backlogs, because the rate at which we commit crime is not the rate at which we produce lawyers or judges or arbiters in our courts, etc. So the two don't tally. We keep demanding, but as I move out of studios here, 10, 20, 30, 40 people can actually commit crime, but the same time is not the same time that we'll produce lawyers from a law school or to produce actually magistrates or even judges for our courts to do this. So the ratification of many of these conventions and many of these things to Uganda, how far and what does Uganda need to do to embrace this, to ratify them, and to ensure that we also now include it holistically into our judicial system?
Well, so I'll focus mainly on the UN Convention on International Mediation Settlement Agreements, which is precisely called the Singapore Convention. I have written an article that is published in the New Vision, and together with Counsel Francis Dungu, and we've also got an article that has been published in the East African of why Uganda needs to ratify the Singapore Mediation Convention. I'll just give a brief about the Singapore Mediation Convention. Now, the Singapore Mediation Convention is a framework that governs the recognition and enforcement of international settlement agreements coming from mediation. So, for example, if Mr. Jagenda, you are in Gambia and I'm in Uganda, and both our countries are parties to the Singapore Mediation Convention, and certainly our countries are parties, so it can be enforceable if it has been ratified. And say I'm selling, let me give a basic example. Let's say I'm selling 10 cows to you, but in the midst there we get a slight disagreement. So what this convention requires us to do is to undergo a mediation process to resolve our dispute. Now, when we resolve our dispute through the mediation process, we get to sign something called an International Mediation Settlement Agreement. It's called an IMSA. So whereby we get to agree, it's like a contract, or from now moving on, probably you gave me 10 cows, of which one missed an ear, or one had a very bad disease that could disorganize the rest of where I keep the cows and so on. So we make that agreement that's saying that moving forward after this mediation, if you breach, the terms that we are now setting, and we're putting particular awards in place. If you do this, we'll do this. If we do this, we'll do this. So if those particular things are breached even after that mediation, having signed the IMSA and us, being parties to that particular convention, you, Mr. Jagenda, will have the right, the moment I breach this particular, other standing in our transaction, you have a right to go to a Ugandan court and enforce an award according to that, document that you signed. And also, yourself, even me as a person, if I want to, defend myself in the court, I can go with that same particular IMSA to say, no, we agreed A, but he's saying B. So this is not pretty much admissible or something like that. So precisely that is the protection that this particular UN convention gives. Now, if you look at the parties, for example, now Uganda ratified this convention in 2019, but for it to be enforceable, so Uganda signed the convention in 2019, but for it to be legally enforceable in Uganda, it needs to be ratified. Countries like Qatar, Belarus, Saudi Arabia, Fiji, Ecuador have ratified this agreement. And leaving alone the sort of basic local example that I've given, you're really looking at corporations, doing transactions between each other, and inevitably they might face a dispute within that. So I'll just highlight a few key reasons why Uganda, our parliament, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Attorney General needs to, move fast, need to fast track the signing of the Singapore Convention. So the first key reason is that it facilitates trade. So for example, if you're looking at SMEs, small and medium-sized businesses in Uganda, conducting businesses with international corporations, you might know, Mr. Jagenda, that these international corporations have got a lot of power. You'll find that a particular company has got more money than the now Ugandan economy. Now, how about an SME, which is conducting business with an international, multinational body? So with this Singapore Mediation Convention, what it does is it gives protection to the SMEs in our country, whereby if we undergo a conflict and we settle it by mediation and we sign an IMSA, we are protected, as opposed to probably spending a lot of money in litigation cases and so on. So that's the first key reason. And just to highlight in this convention is that the mediator has got to be independent as well. If you look at Article 5 of the Singapore Convention, is that if a mediator is found to be biased and you've got proof in a particular case, that case can be thrown out. It could be it could be a ground to throw out the case if, for example, it went to a stage of enforcement. So I've got three key reasons, and I've mentioned one: it facilitates international trade. But also, it promotes mediation, because what it does is, mediation is a win-win situation. Because what we are all looking at is successfully resolving this particular dispute that we're facing. It's brotherly. It's the African way of resolving disputes, like our parents did. They did it in an informal way, but that was mediation. And it's also, time and cost effective. It preserves business relationships. So because it really pushes towards mediation, the parties are benefiting. And that's really important for these international cross-border interstate transactions. But also, it boosts the economy, because I can make as many transactions with people, because I'm secure that if our country is party to this Singapore Convention and the other party that I'm trading with is party to it, I'll be secure, because it will not be very fearful in litigation and so on. But more particularly, if you look at the statistics, for example, mediation in the UK was estimated to be 17.5 billion in 2020 as an industry, and it was also estimated that 4.6 billion per UK, per year, is saved in mediation, according to the statistics from the Ministry of Justice. But also, if you look at the statistics still in the United Kingdom, for example, 89%, can you imagine? 89% of mediations carried out, were successful, according to the United Kingdom's Center for Effective Dispute Resolution, when they made their 8th audit report. So clearly, it's really a request for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for the Attorney General, and for the Parliament to really help us follow up the ratification of the Singapore Mediation Convention, really to boost Uganda's international trade and promote mediation as a way of resolving international disputes. Because we're really losing out. Just look at the money that the UK is, the mediation industry is estimated 17.5 billion and pounds, and the kind of.
Okay, well, Kato.
A new global agenda that we need to get to join.
Okay, thank you very much. We just admitted the DRC into the fraternity of the ESC about 2-3 weeks ago. They are fresh into the fraternity of the ESC. how do they come into this fraction? How do they come into this picture? And secondly, how should the media partner or participate in this whole drive and campaign? Because the media on one hand is a fourth estate, and it's one of the drivers. But the media can fail, the media can make, the media can blow out of proportion, the media can do all the things. So why should the media, what should be the position of the media in all this drive? And bring me to speed to what you think about the DRC's involvement or coming into the fraternity of the ESC in as far as mediation and arbitration is concerned.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Jagenda, for that very good question once again. I'll quickly highlight the advantages of arbitration, and then, come to, I'll combine, mediation, international mediation, but mainly focus on, arbitration, as a very big advantage for the DRC joining the ESC. Now, briefly highlighting the key advantages of arbitration, we're looking at enforcement. Because with arbitration, it is governed by the New York Convention of 1958, which Uganda, is a signatory to. So in those 169 countries, 160, I think it's 160 countries, an arbitration award can be enforced in those particular countries. And also neutrality, the arbitrators, the judge, is required to be neutral. The rules require you as an arbitrator, judge in arbitration, to continuously make disclosures of, if there is any sort of conflict of interest. So the parties are pretty much assured of, of a neutral judge who will make a good judgment in an arbitration context, of course. And there is certainty because there are strong institutions, because you can decide to, so for example, Kenya and parties in Kenya and Uganda can decide to arbitrate, to refer the agreement to arbitration as opposed to litigation. And the arbitration seats, the rules that they are using, will be from the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom has been tested with timeless, rules and procedures and justice. So when they're using that particular seat, using those particular routes and tested, the parties are, pretty much assured that they'll be getting, good arbitration results. Then it's also flexible because it can be conducted online. Then the choice, the parties can appoint their own arbitrators as they choose. Then also there is privacy, parties can decide, it has to be confidential unless the parties decide, unless the parties request for disclosure. But moving on quickly to Congo. Now, Congo is first of all, Congo has got a population of 95 million people. It is the biggest country in the sub-Sahara of Africa. And, it's projected to have a GDP of 50.1 billion in 2020 by the IMF. Congo is the world's biggest producer of cobalt. 68% of the world's cobalt is produced in Congo. And what is really happening, and also Congo, produces 1.8 million tons of copper annually. And remember that the world's goal by 2030 is to move towards zero emissions. Now, if you look at the battery that is used in electric vehicles, it has got, if you combine cobalt and copper, it's got more than a third. It makes up more than a third, and the big investors, the Elon Musks, are really investing in this particular field. So the key reason I'm highlighting that is, when I say that, think about the opportunities for arbitrators in the East African community to be able to arbitrate on an agreement between Elon Musk and a particular probably government company in Congo, and because Congo, is Francophone, because if you look now, we've got the biggest Francophone bloc, pretty much, I think, in Africa. We have got Rwanda, we've got Burundi, we have got Congo. All these are French speakers. Now, such an agreement can be referred as a seat using the civil laws of France. So there are really big opportunities for arbitrators. And the CEO, my CEO usually says that lawyers should stop looking at chicken tip cases, you know, with all due respect, certainly. When there are really big opportunities for them to train up, get experience, and earn money in, you know, in agreements like that. So the the DRC is really bringing a ton of opportunities, like I mentioned in the, you know, in the GDP, and you know, now Kinshasa also being called the New York of Africa because of this population, and so on. So a very big opportunity. And also another interesting fact that I came across is that if you travel from Goma to Kinshasa and back, you might be required to have $50 in flights. Whereas if you travel from Rwanda to Goma, you might use $5. And traveling from Kampala to Goma, it could be $75. So meaning Goma is further away from Kinshasa, the capital of Congo, and Rwanda is closer than Kampala. So if you look at the customs union, you know, the common market, people moving freely and goods moving freely across the borders, there are various opportunities for arbitration and arbitration practitioners. That's why we need to see African arbitration practitioners making decisions in their own, you know, continent, as opposed to having international, you know, arbitration practitioners. That, you know, so precisely, Congo's joining is a really, really big plus. You know, we're going to be a population of about 266 million, a GDP of $243 billion. So it's really a big plus, despite the challenges of road network.
Which also can be managed. Really, which challenges can also be managed. Finally, we have about 4 minutes to be out of studios. Talk about the media. What should we in the media do in all this?
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much for that good reminder. So one of the things that you're doing, you're hosting me right now, I'm raising awareness about arbitration and mediation. And this is one of the key things that the media needs to do to shed more light on such statistics. I was I'm not making an advert, but I was reading the East African recently. And, you know, they're really shedding light onto these statistics, which will really give people very good insight. So I would really encourage the media to shed more light on, you know, alternative dispute resolution means, not just arbitration, but mediation, because people's, you know, cases of land, 8 years in court, 10 years, other people die when the cases are still being dealt with.
True.
Whereas if these particular lawyers would have advised their clients to say, you know, could you look at mediation before we actually go to court? I know we also want to make money in litigation so that the case can stay there for as long as possible to earn as much money as we can.
And it moves from lawyer to lawyer, lawyer to lawyer. You look at a case that has had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lawyers over a period of time, lawyer X, lawyer Y, lawyer Z, and never concluded. And I think it also wears us out and very bad for our judicial system.
Yeah, so precisely, we really ask for the cooperation of the media. Thank you very much, UBC and Mr. Jagenda, for hosting me like this to raise awareness about these things that people might not know. I didn't know about mediation before. I did the course myself. So that's how bad it is. The person who's gone to Oxford, Brooks, has got a master's from University of Central Lancashire. I didn't know, even after finishing my, you know, master's and postgrad and so on, that mediation is actually a simple way that, you know, we can use to resolve disputes, with all due respect to lawyers who enjoy litigation and so on.
Okay. in just 1 minute, your final take, your final shot, and finally, what would you love to let the public know and take home for them as we sign out?
Yeah, so thank you very much, firstly, Mr. Jagenda, for giving me and our organization the opportunity to be on this show. My key message is to fellow young lawyers like me in the country. I think we need to have a broader perspective and move our eyes away from just the traditional way of, litigation and so on, and also try to explore these other areas of the law. And ultimately, not just young lawyers, but to everyone, that I'd encourage everyone that keep the hope up. Hope is the last thing to be lost. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. My brother, Kato Mpanga, an academic lawyer in the United Kingdom, not US. Thank you so much, my brother, Mpanga Kato. And we hope to have these engagements more and more. We won't stop it here. We'll continue talking, we'll continue engaging, and we'll continue learning more. And of course, creating the awareness of mediation, which I think can also be a very good resource for us, for the country, and of course, for the region of East Africa, and of course for Africa, because I'm so passionate about East Africa and of course Africa. I'm all African, and I think African. So anything that propels and pushes Africa ahead, it to me is a take home every day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me, Mr. Jagenda.
Okay, every blessing. Thank you so much. And Kato Mpanga, just right there, of course, joining us on Good Morning Uganda Extra today, and of course, wishing you all the best to all the people out there. Blessed Easter holiday, blessed Easter Monday morning today. To everybody out there, and of course, my brother, Bishop Andrew Mokasa in Tanzania, just sent me a message to say I'm actually watching in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. I thank you so much. Tuna shukuru nyinyi wote, asante sana, and of course, na wandugu wote kule Tanzania. Shalom and good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.